This is working. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Step here a little bit closer. Good morning there, Pipe Pals. How you doing? Well, as I, the old Holy Smoking Pipe Padre, and I want to apologize for putting up 2 videos back to back. And I'll explain why I'm back here today. Smoking my beautiful 1930s Dunhill Shellbriar Group 5. Actually, this I think is a large bowl. Maybe it's beyond a Group 5. And in it, I'm smoking some North Woods. Got some good old North Woods, and boy, let me tell you, it's tasty. Also got some coffee here, and so I'm here because I'm trying to enjoy a pipe, and I thought I'd do it with you. But and I know I just put up a rather lengthy video. By the way, there's a little trick, and I don't know if I've ever shared this. I'm sure I have. But if your pipe isn't quite drawing quite right, and although this one is, but there's something a little bit missing. What I do is I just perforate the little top there. I just take this and I just put a little hole there, a little draft hole, and that just seems to really make it flow a little bit more evenly. There we go. That's it and all about it. So I just uploaded a video just the other day, yesterday in fact. Today is Saturday morning, February 16th. And the reason why I am going to come back one more time, I'm going to talk about something, and let me just, right up front, those of you who are love the pipes and the tobacco reviews and just the general tobacco chit-chat, God bless you, I say. But this is going to be an actual, little my disclaimer here, a little more of a religious in tone video. And what I mean by that is I'm actually going to just be very explicit. I'm going to be explicitly religious today and talk about the Pope Benedict, resigning, stepping down, abdicating, whatever term you want to use. Because, and I'm only doing this because a couple people have asked me. In fact, I even got from, and I'm going to try to say your name correctly, Gary Portier. He sent me a Christmas card and also a little card here, very nice, with some more Sherlock Holmes paraphernalia. Thank you, Gary, very, very, very much. It's always nice to get real cards and letters. So anyway, I was touched to get this, but he asked me, he said, well, what is your take on the Pope Benedict thing? And would you please make a video if you can? I mean, he didn't tie me down and say, you need to make a video and blah, blah, blah. He just said, hey, it'd be nice to get your comments on that. Well, Gary, and those of you who are interested, this is where some of us may part company now, and you can go check out a J video, or a Matches 860 video, or a Make and Change video, or a Joffrey video, or One Man Smoke video, or Sparky's Pipes video, or, Alex, I don't know what name he's going by now, but you know who I'm talking about, or Pipe Prof video. There's a whole bunch of them out there, So, I see a couple of guys are back. Bob's back. Hey, Bob, hope you're doing well. You kind of changed your look there. I didn't even recognize out your beard. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just share my own, when they're very limited, really, thoughts about Pope Benedict stepping down. You know, and I guess I'll just start with that. I really, to be honest, folks, I don't really know that much to have a really, truly informed opinion. And I've said that to a friend of mine. They said, well, what about your uninformed opinion? Well, that and maybe, 2 cents might get you nothing, I mean, just because I am a padre, people kind of sometimes automatically think that I have this direct connection, to God, and I also have, a red phone in my bedroom from the Vatican, and the Pope calls me periodically and tells me to do stuff. Well, it's not quite that fanciful, okay? And I'm sorry if I'm being a bit cheeky here. Some people might think, don't insult people by being a jerk. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I am being honest. It's like it would be like somebody asking you, and maybe there's a few exceptions that are watching. The new president, is that going to have any effect in your life? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is really no. When you stop and think about it. Now, granted, some policies may eventually trickle down to where you feel it in your pocketbook, perhaps. Certainly, there are things that maybe will limit maybe some of your freedoms in the future. Who knows? But by and large, to be honest, people go about their daily lives, and whoever's in Washington, and it goes true, kind of holds true to a certain extent. Whoever is the Holy Father, it doesn't, and sometimes it does have an impact on us. Okay, and I think that's what people kind of always are. I wouldn't say fearful of per se, but they may have a little bit of anxiety. What kind of changes are going to be coming about, and that kind of stuff. Let me relight my wonderful Dunhill here. Operator error, not pipe error. So, if I was to give my opinion about the whole shooting match, because it's not just the Pope resigning or abdicating or stepping down or retiring. It is, what is that inevitably going to mean? Well, inevitably, and quite soon, there's going to be a conclave, 100 and some odd cardinals. Not the St. Louis Cardinals, by the way. Although, I'm not going to say it. So they'll meet in conclave, and they will elect a new pope. And when we see the white smoke, hey, we have a habemus papam, okay? And no, my name is not in the running. Just want to let you put that to rest too. Some people wondered if I might be the next pope. No, my name. I'm not even in the running. So don't even worry about it. Oh, I could change my name to Holy Smoking Pope Padre. Ooh, Holy Smoking Pipe Pope. Ooh, hey. And yes, there have been occupants of not only the White House but also St. Peter's who have enjoyed tobacco. Some were cigar smokers, and I don't know if we had any pipe smoking popes, but we have had, I know, cigar smoking and maybe possibly cigarette smoking popes. It's true. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I digress. So again, I think most people's concern is, well, how is this going to maybe affect me, or maybe not so affect me personally, as in maybe my day-to-day life. But what is it going to mean for the Catholic Church? And, those are good questions, good concerns, I guess. And, I know there's a couple of people out there who have either gone to seminary. I hope they're doing fine. I hope I haven't scandalized them too much by my kind of down-to-earth folksiness about the faith. But a couple of them went to seminary. Aaron Prebill is one. He sent me that nice pipe a few months back, actually last July, and I still have that pipe, Aaron. Thank you if you're watching still. And there was another young man who periodically would say hello, and I hope he's doing well in seminary. I think his name is Eric Eric, if I got your name wrong, please forgive me. It's just that sometimes if I lose contact with some folks, I kind of lose track of their name. So, but I know that you were one of the other ones that were telling me you were going to seminary. And then I just got a comment the other day that one of our other folks are actually going to be received into the Catholic Church, I believe this Holy Saturday evening at the Easter Vigil. And God bless you. I don't want to say your name because maybe you may not want to, but a couple of guys have, pretty much let me know it's okay. Everybody knows who they are, and it's not a big deal. But anyway, but I also am a convert. And this is where I think it gets down to it. Because when we talk about the election of a new pope, we talk about essentially, what kind of changes are possibly coming for the church, okay? And to be honest, there are a lot of people who find themselves at odds with Catholic theology. And I think that's where the flies in the ointment, the rubber meets the road, all those little idioms I can employ, those little cliches. Because a lot of times people, when it comes down to it, their concern is, well, is the church going to basically agree with me about the way I see life? And for some people that matters an awful lot. But the problem is that they have problems with the church, the official understandings of the church, on some moral issues, maybe some social issues. And they feel that the church is either backwards or isn't modernized enough or isn't open and willing to dialogue with people of different mindsets. And we all know the hot button issues, are priests going to allow to get married? Are we going to have married priests? Are we going to have women priests? Is the church going to change its stance on, homosexual unions? Is it going to drop its stance on artificial contraception and abortion? And all these other hot button issues that just make people, they get their hackles up, and they just get really upset. Now, there are some real serious things. We all know the sex abuse scandal. I mean, I tell you, folks, this one came out of nowhere, kind of knocked me out. Just like if somebody was standing there, you had no clue they were going to haul off and hit you in the old breadbasket, and you're just gasping for air because it was the sucker punch from hell. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I had no concept. I'm also a convert. So back in 1986. Almost 30 years ago, 27 years ago, I became a Catholic. I chose to become a Catholic. I was at the time a non-denominational, charismatic Christian person, but I had found, I guess, like in all phases of religious pursuits, we all kind of. Well, I wouldn't say we all, but a lot of people who are seekers, I guess, or people who are trying to, if you will, find God, which there's nothing wrong with that. You go through your journey, your quest, and sometimes it leads you to things that are really good, and sometimes you discover things that are very painful and not so good. And I wouldn't say it was a cult. I think that would be a little harsh and even inaccurate to say that. But I was with a non-denominational Christian group for a number of years. But guess what? They started having problems. Wonder why that is. Maybe it's because they have real people in them. Maybe there's something to that, And so some ugly, scandalous things reared their head. And and like all young people, again, I was much younger than I am today. I guess I was disillusioned, scandalized, perhaps. And I decided I was at a turning. I was at a kind of a cross and fork in the road, and so I took it and put it on my table. I guess if I'd learned how to set a table, I'm having to learn all these kind of butlerly kind of things. I feel like Carlson the butler on Downton Abbey sometimes. But anyway, I digress. But so I was disillusioned, and I went to college. I decided, well, I'll check out what these folks know. And it was there in college that I encountered in a real life way. Now, a lot of times people, they know about the Catholic Church only by what they hear in the media and what they hear maybe from second and third hands. But I actually was intrigued enough to actually go out and meet a few Roman Catholics. Kind of scary for this former evangelical, although I'm still evangelical. I don't know why I say former. But anyway, I went, was in seminary, I was checking out some books, and the librarian looked at the type of books I was checking out and says, "Oh, I see you're interested in becoming a priest, young man." At the time I was young. And at first I thought he was certainly talking to somebody else. And I'm looking around, and then I kind of realized he may be talking to me. I said, well, I considered it. But I didn't want to get rude or anything. But then he said, well, there's this monastery, did you know, right around up on Mount St. Joseph in Loomis there. Summer home of the 49ers, by the way. Used to be. And I said, oh, really? So I remember going up there, and I remember it being one of those moments in your life that it just kind of changes your life. Maybe the story bears repeating. I went up there, and it was looked like a little Italian style, a Spanish-esque kind of style, a little monastery on a little mountain, a little hill. Lots of olive trees around, and it was just beautiful and everything. And I thought for sure the Swiss guards were going to come out and arrest me. What are you doing here? That kind of thing. But no such thing. A little guy comes out of the chapel, a little bald-headed guy, and he doesn't ask me who I am, what am I doing here, where are my Vatican papers, that kind of thing. He just says, let me show you around. That's all he said, let me show you around. He shows me around the grounds. The grounds are beautiful. We get ready to go into the chapel, and he says, oh, by the way, would you like to stay for dinner? And being a college student, I said, is it free? He assured me that it was free, but first we have to go to Mass, and then we'll have dinner after Mass. And I went, Mass? Oh, that's that Catholic thing. And I remember kind of sitting in the back and just watching all this unfold. Now, I want to say that although religious experience is a wonderful thing, and I've had some very powerful religious experiences, what I received at my first Mass wasn't primarily a real emotional experience, but it was a knowing. And this is just my opinion, my humble opinion, and some of you who watch might say, I don't believe that, that's wrong, the Bible says this. Okay, we're not going to go there. I'm just telling you my experience. I had been in many different, groups, Christian groups, and unfortunately, the doctrine started getting kind of wishy-washy, and they started kind of turning right or left, and kind of, before you knew it, it was what the pastor said. That was what was important, Well, as ironic, I know as it sounds, becoming Catholic, later, that might sound a little weird what I'm about to say now, but I always felt that, it was just one of those moments where when the Eucharist was presented to me for the very first time, where the Father John held up the host and the chalice and said, behold the Lamb of God, behold him who takes away the sins of the world, Jesus in our midst. Blessed are those who are called to the supper of the Lamb. I said, wow. Again, it wasn't an overwhelming emotional response, but it was a knowing. It was a recognition. And I said, any institution with broken, sinful people that has to, come together with all of our personalities and all of our quirkiness and all of our sinfulness, if in each and every worship experience we have to look at and acknowledge and worship the cornerstone of our faith, Christ, Jesus himself, you're not going to, again, you're still going to have problems. Don't get me wrong. You're still going to have error. You're still going to have things that, people that don't get along and they fight and there's problems. But you got to go at every worship experience. You have to come back and look at the boss. Chances are it's kind of like a self-correcting mechanism. Anytime our pride and our ego tries to take us a little bit this way or a little bit that way, doggone it, we got to come right back and focus on the author and finisher of our faith. I thought, well, at least there's that guarantee that he's still primarily the reason for coming together. And so anyway, that was part of it. That was a big part of it, the Holy Eucharist. So, and so what happened was later in the years that followed, I began to continue to study and talk to different priests and Catholics, and finally I got a job. My very first and only job as a school teacher. Guess where? Catholic Church. You got it. And it was that year I converted in 1986. And for me, the two things that were big questions in my heart, was one was, what does the church really teach? Because, you can find a lot of priests and nuns and good people who will try and soften some of the harder truths. They will, and some of them, I think, do a disservice not just to the truth, which is not good, but they do a disservice to people by not telling them up front what the church really expects. Whether you agree with it or not, I think people have a right to know the truth. And that's what happened. It was about 3 weeks before I was going to be, maybe it was actually more like 3 or 4 months before I was going to become a Catholic. And I knew that the clock was ticking. And one day I said, you're going to have to really look at what the church authentically and officially teaches. And because you're saying, in essence, when you receive the Eucharist, that you believe that, you accept that, you're going to try and live by that. And there was part of me that says, can you really do that, honestly, with integrity? And so I remember there was one church in our diocese that had this thick pamphlet, it was free for the taking. There weren't very many people taking it, though, that spelled it out, black and white, what the church really teaches. And I remember seeing that for a long, long time. And finally, one Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, I guess it was, I decided I'm going to go back where no one's going to see me, and I'm going to take that pamphlet, I'm going to go to a little corner of the church there, and I'm going to read it. And I did. And it was a sobering moment because I said, wow, the church really does teach these things. And as a former, Protestant type of a mindset, I was kind of like going, well, do I really believe that? Now, there was a part of me that didn't understand. And this is where I want to say, if you're kind of like scratching your head and saying, well, look at all the outdated things the church teaches, blah, 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 blah. If you're only looking at it from that perspective, from a modernistic perspective, and that's all you find yourself more reacting to it instead of trying to understand it, then yeah, you're going to probably have some real heartburn. I know I did. But there comes a point when you say, okay, it's like when you have, I guess, a relationship. And the person in your life, they're very important to you, but they drive you up the wall too sometimes. And all you do is you seem to fight all the time. All you do is you go like, you're not listening to me. I think there's a lot of people in church that you're not listening to us. What I think has to happen is you need to just, okay, let me hear what you have to say. I don't agree with it right now, but I need to hear what you say and why you say that. And then be open to trying to say, okay, I need to go further and deeper and say, why do they believe that? Seek understanding. There's an old Latin term, fides quaerens intellectum, faith seeking understanding. And so when I read that pamphlet, there were probably maybe 30% of the things that I knew on the surface. I don't know if I believe that, quote unquote. I don't know if I can accept that. But part of me says, but I'm open to understanding. That's what made the difference. Because if I had just gone with my gut feeling of, well, I don't agree with that, or I don't know if I can live that, or I don't believe that theology, then I would never have become a Catholic. But there was something inside of me that gave me peace saying, you don't understand it now, but in time you will, and you will be able to embrace it. And that's the way it was. But there was one other element that really made the difference for me. And again, I'm not here to proselytize. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm just telling you, because people want to know, well, how can you, I think that's what it is. It's the modern world looks at us Catholics and says, look at all your corny medieval ideas, quote unquote, and how can you believe that today, in today's world? And I think, and I can't argue, I can't, the only thing I can put up against the logical arguments that some people might, want to launch, it goes beyond logic. It goes beyond, trying to reason something out like in a mathematical equation, But what really hooked me, what really grabbed me, and I explained it a few minutes ago about the Eucharist, but there was, and you can still find this, I think most people can still find it even online, and some people might think I'm really, really crazy, and maybe I am. But I found, when I was a school teacher, I found an old black and white video of the old Latin Mass, narrated by Archbishop Fulton Sheen. And I was intrigued. And I remember watching that video. And the first time I was like blown away, going, whoa. There was something beautiful. There was something transcendent. There was something just absolutely beautiful. And I just fell in love with it. And it wasn't the ceremony, although it was beautiful liturgy, and I still think in fact, because of Pope Benedict, we are allowed to now celebrate the extraordinary form of the Latin Mass if we want to. It's easier said than done, let me just tell you that. But he's kind of removed the stigma of it being somehow anti-Vatican II, although there's still some people that will persist in thinking that it still is, but they need to pray for understanding too. But I remember watching that video, and I watched it over and over and over. And then in Holy Week, I watched it over and over and over. And I just was literally caught up in this beautiful, transcendent beauty of this beautiful God, and how he comes down in a very loving way and gives us his very self, his very essence, his body and his blood. And I thought, wow, that's what I want. That's who I want. So it's not so much a question of what and why, but who and when do you surrender your heart to God. That's basically it for me. That's what it was. So whoever becomes the new Holy Father, we say God bless him. I think a lot of people, like I said, have questions of, well, what kind of changes will he bring? I certainly think the church has to address in a very real way the ugliness and the scandal. We need to do something other than just pay out money. I'm going to be honest. We need to do something that is going to be really tangible and more importantly healing for everybody involved. Because it isn't just the victims, God bless them, and the perpetrators, the sick guys that did these things, but it's everybody. Everybody suffers. And we all need healing, okay, one way or another. So I don't know if that answers any questions. Maybe it raises more questions than it answers. And that's okay too. Can you live with the questions sometimes and not worry about, do I have a real concrete answer? Because, it's still limited. Every time we think we have some concrete answer, we realize that our concrete answers are really just stepping stones for the next question, right? If you don't believe me, go look at Jay's video. All they are is questions and more questions, and Jay's 10 questions, but we love him, yeah. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to address that, and I hope if you were wanting to get my little spin on it, well, there you have it, okay? So I hope you're having a wonderful Lent. Basically, I've just real quickly, as far as my Lent thing goes, I do a fiber cereal in the morning, and then I just flush it out with juice the rest of the day, and that's it. But so far, I'm feeling pretty good. Doing some walking, but I still have my two favorite things. We know what they are because they're medicine. So, anyway, thanks for your patience with me. I'm humbled that some of you even watched this video, and if you did, thank you very much, and we'll see you later. Okay, God bless, take care, light up your world, light up your pipe. Until next time, whatever.